Alrighty folks, welcome back to another video from Yates Computers Tips and Reviews. Okay, I want to start out with making sure to mention, everybody stop what you're doing, head on over, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, do all the necessary stuff, join, whatever you got to do for YouTube, make sure you subscribe, and head on back over. Watch the newest videos, watch all the old videos. There's a lot of videos on here that are all related to each other. Want to start with the disclaimer on this video that this video will probably offend or upset a lot of people who watch this video, because there's going to be a lot of points in this video that will probably upset people. But this is facts and this is information that need to be put out. So I don't want to say don't take it personally, but you do have to kind of take this personally, and you'll find out why. And this is probably going to be one of a 3 video set with different subjects. But this one is probably going to be the most offensive to a lot of people. So I want to put that disclaimer out there now, because this is really a critical key piece of information to put out that a lot of people, there's no way to sugarcoat it anymore. There's no way to dance around it. I've mentioned it a lot in a lot of other videos, but now is the time to actually point out the biggest problem with computers. And that is the user of the computer. That would be you. That would be me. That would be people you know, that are people you work with that actually use the computer. And a lot of people will find this offensive. But it needs to be brought in that way so that people realize there are things you need to look at. There are things you may need to change. I have all these training videos about phishing, knowing your URLs. That is a user-specific area. That is not the system. Because it's you who's getting that email. It's you who's opening that email. It's you who's reading that email. These are now all choices the user actually makes that causes or prevents issues. You opening an email and clicking a link that gets your computer infected with a Trojan horse, virus, malware, any of those million other options that are out there, ransomware, is the user. You have other things you can do as a user, or the second subject of the video is going to be the administrator. As the user at home or home environment, the user is also most of the time the administrator. Best practice is, I've brought this up in user logins, have an admin account and have general user accounts. Difference is the privileges on those accounts, what they can do. Having passwords on both of those accounts. Maybe having multiple accounts for your kids, your younger kids, for your older kids, for your spouse, for your guests. All of these things can have different permission levels and what they can do and what they cannot do on the system. That is a good user-based level. But again, that's not only a user responsibility. That also falls into the administrator. I will have a video about the administrator's responsibility. So as a user, your job is to basically follow best practices, best procedures, and to get educated on how to use the computer, what is best practice, what isn't best practice, and how to proceed and be safe on the computer. To sum it up for administrator is the job to force you to do the better and safer practices. And I will get into more of the administrator side on the administrator video that I will be doing next. But as a user, there is a lot of educational and a lot of things you can learn and know to keep yourself safe. If you're in a small business or a home environment, like I said, you may be the administrator of the network. I've gone through this year's quiz about what is your network layout? What is your wiring? Cat 6, Cat 7, Cat 5, Cat 3, coax. All of these things are important on the user side because of what you're doing on your computer. What games, what applications, what internet speeds, all of these things are important for you as a user to have available for you. The administrator side is the one that actually implements that, make sure that stuff is right, checking that all. That's why when I say you hire someone to come do a job for you, to run a coax cable. I have the video on the 3 different coaxes that I went through. They're running a cable, so technically they're doing the administration job. They're putting the backbone in, putting the line, putting in the modem, putting in all that stuff where you just hook it to your wireless or you run their wireless or whatever their functions are that you're tying in to your system. You will be doing some of the administrator side. But that's to get to the user part. What you're going to use it for. How you're going to use it. You're using it for Office 365, so you got to go out on the internet. All those type of functions as a user. Knowing those functions and knowing what's there. Knowing what's a good website. What's a bad website. Knowing your URLs. Knowing all of that type of stuff. Knowing not to click on links somebody sends you. But now, even with the studies that I'm doing this year, it brings a lot of stuff in with the new modern tech. Your cell phones, your tablets, all of these other devices, all this smart home technology. The control your lights from your phone, your AC control, your web cameras, all these devices that are connected to your network now. As a user, you are putting these in. As the administrator side, you're administrating it. So, this is where a lot of the weak links come in. And in IT, there's a term called shadow IT. That is when a user performs an IT function, like putting in wireless networks, changing passwords, connecting other computers, like personal laptops, personal other things, onto other networks that are unsecure. Without an IT or an admin knowing about it. So, this is where a lot of these issues come in. And this is the user side. This is the individual sitting down that's actually using the computer. So that is the user. And a lot of these functions are the same because I mentioned unauthorized computers. You might have a guest that comes over, brings their laptop, gets on your wireless network. That wireless network is connected to your new thermostat, your new webcams, your new everything. That's all on that wireless network. And that computer is infected that infects something else. Imagine kids come over with USB sticks, plug in to your computer to load a game, transfer photos, plug their phone in to transfer phone stuff over, files, pictures, whatever. That's all users. That's the user level. what you allow on that computer, you can actually restrict stuff with the software-based firewalls, all the hardware firewalls, all kinds of things that are out there. I have all these videos on. And this is what it all refers back to, is the user level and the admin level. Knowing all of that type of stuff. So, wanted to go through because doing the studying I'm doing now keeps going back to how all of this is separated, and they really don't put the blame where the blame kind of needs to be. And they reference a lot of best practices, is education and training on a lot of things. And that is hard to do if you're a home user or a small business, because who is going to tell you you need to train, you need to learn this, you need to learn that, when you're the user and the admin? To understand the two roles and how the roles are separated, and to understand why you have the best practice of 2 separate logins or more. There are actually different roles and different situations you can set up in the system. You can actually have an administrative account, a user account, and when you get into Active Directory server roles that most Windows professionals have, you can get into the roles. There's different roles in there. Other than those roles, there is an actual guest account. A guest account really locks that system down big time. They can't even log out. You have to hit Control-Alt-Delete, go into the logout feature. They can't shut the system down. They're a guest. They can't change a lot of things. I have systems set up that way that are under a guest account, that are not on a server, are not on Active Directory, and are not domain-based. You have other situations and other accounts in there. When you get into the admin side, there is a lot more you can do. Other major critical thing is backups. There is backup accounts that allow you certain privileges for when you do backups. That is a user account that has those permissions. So this is why this is being brought up now, because it's not really an admin account. Because you're not going into that account to admin the computer. And I'll get into that more terminology, more for you to understand the difference between a user account and an admin account. The user account, basically, you're going in there to use the computer to do your certain functions, to do certain tasks. And tasks can be, you go in there to play a game, you go in there to do your Word project, you go in there to do your taxes, you go in there to surf the internet. That's your task you're going to do. Of course, you get into a lot more detail when you get into each one of those tasks. But I wanted to break that down and explain this user account and where the risk is. Because the user account actually has choices you can make. And there's right choices and there's wrong choices. And there's acceptable choices. There are ways to mitigate risk, to control risk, to reduce the risk. And that can fall basically on the administrator and on the user. If the user is taught and knows, don't click on links from emails, texts, whatever media is out there, being careful about phone calls also. making sure that someone is not phishing you or getting the information from a phone call. Because it's not only, hey, I'm so-and-so from the IRS, I need to confirm your Social Security because they want your Social Security. They'll actually try to get your username and logins on computers. They'll try to get any information they can out of you. Because a lot of it, you're not going to probably expect it as a user. Oh, I'm with the IT support. I need to confirm your username. Who's IT support? Some people think, okay, it's just a username. It's not that big of a deal. It's not that confidential. Because it's not that confidential in your organization, because everybody else knows everybody else and kind of knows my username is this, her username is that, his username is kind of that, because you work with them and you communicate, you talk, you send emails back and forth that usually are closely related to usernames, how the email is situated. But you can change all that. That goes into the admin role. You can change all that structuring so that they're not the same. So this is where it comes down to the user being the weakest link a lot of times, because people will ask these questions. And they'll be general, simple questions that you might not think is a concern. Because if they're really looking at your organization or looking at you or looking at whatever company you're in or whatever, they're going to try to fish that information. They're trying to get any little bit of information they can. You know, if your organization uses its organization name, your last name, your first name, and the street they're on, and run it all together, and that's the username, and you tell them, oh, my username is blah, 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 blah. Well, they're going to figure it out. They're going to make notes of that, and they're going to kind of figure out, oh, this is the structure that the organization is using. This is what the structure is the individual's using. This is the organization's using. They'll figure that out and be able to reverse engineer it to get in. To figure out what other possible accounts you might have on your system. Biggest point that they keep bringing up with the phishing and is people can research you by not physically attempting to hack into your system. There is a lot of data out there on the internet for people to look at. Your Facebook, your Twitter, your all of this stuff you guys are posting out there, the users that are posting. This is all important information out there available for anybody to really look at. One of the issues that I've seen that kind of I think can be user based is when you set up your user account, like now, the newer operating systems that ask you for 3 security verifications. What's your mom's maiden name? What's your birth date? What's your first pet? What's this? What's that? A lot of these are really common information that's out there. And it's kind of recommended you don't put the real information in there. Because nowadays, everybody has Facebook, everybody has all this information out there. Oh, security question, what's my first pet? What was my favorite pet? What's my mother's maiden name? A lot of times they can look all that up on Facebook. They can go on Facebook, see who your parents are because you've posted it on Facebook. They could go look at their Facebook page and see who their parents are. There's the maiden name. Pets. You put pictures of your pets. Oh, I lost my poor little Snuffy, whatever year. Well, guess what? You just lost Snuffy. There's the information they're looking for. So this is what I wanted to put out as for users. And again, this is going to offend people. It's not meant to truly offend, but it has to offend for the knowledge to be put out. And for you to understand the pros and cons of this. And to understand all the different layers of stuff that's out there. You have layers of security that's out there, but then you have a lot of sharing that's out there that can actually provide all the information for the security is in the sharing. And as a user, you probably don't realize that because that's not really your concern. You're going on Facebook. You're posting, you had a great weekend and you went to Baja, California. You went to San Diego. You went to wherever. You went with your parents. You took your dog. You took whatever with you, whoever with you. That's all relevant information for some people. And it's kind of that little shocking details that are out there that I wanted to point out to the user. Because that's a lot of security information that really comes back to the user. And I know for a long time in the industry that there was always kind of a joke, it's not a computer problem, it's a user problem. And that was kind of an offensive joke to a lot of people. But it really is a lot of the facts, because it's not the computer did something, it's what the user did that caused the issue. And this is why I wanted to do this video, to pinpoint that and to bring that out. Because education is really important. A lot of people complain about YouTube, about how bad it is, and all the ads, and all the miscellaneous links that you can click on that could be so bad. But there is also good to it. You have channels like mine, and you have other channels out there that are educational and inform you on some of this information. So this is kind of an important factor to bring up, to let people know, as the user role and as a user, you do have some kind of importance in the organization and in the security and in everything else. Knowing the security as a user can reflect on what you do on a personal level, and what you do on other media and other things can affect the security. And that's just a simple Windows login I brought up. Because now that Windows login, when you request, I forgot my password, and it prompts you with those security questions, a lot of people can find a lot of that information. So if that's that, they can figure out. How about your banking site that asks those security questions? How about all these other things? Once you start gathering that information, a lot of people can gather a lot of information. So, wanted to go through that and do that one for user. Because the user account is really important. Because you're the user. And as a user, you can also be the administrator. And hopefully you're following best practices and you have separate accounts for your admin, separate account for your user. Now, as long as you have a password on your user account, auto login right to that user account is kind of a questionable acceptable. If this computer is secure where nobody else can get to it, it's in an office like mine that's locked, nobody else can get in there. I actually have a security camera in here. I can see this computer all the time. These points I just brought up are huge points in the next video. But knowing how you have that actual startup, it is best practice to have it boot into Windows and prompt you for your password. There's an argument still out there about password security, how strong, how encrypted, two-factor, all that type of stuff for the computer. Of course, as the admin, you can make those decisions. But having the bare minimum is, of course, again, the bare minimum. But there are options to have below bare minimum. No password, no nothing. Using password as your password is not a valid choice. Those are, you can go on the internet, find the top 25 top used passwords. That's what most hackers and crackers are going to first do to your computer, is they're going to use those top passwords on it. They're going to use those top usernames. And again, if you've done some engineering and you figured out some social engineering and all of that type of stuff, you can figure out the username. And if you have an easy password, they're right in. Goes to the second subject that I'll be doing a video here right after this one of how you can prevent some of this stuff. So if you're the user and the admin, it's pretty much important you see both of these, because most home users are both. You're going to be the home user, you're going to be the home administrator. Small businesses, you're probably going to be the same. You might have someone that comes in and services your computers, cleans them, does some other things like that, runs cables for you, some little shop in town, something of that sort. But you're going to need to know the admin side. And this is why this is the rabbit hole. Because it goes from starting your computer, logging into your computer, and using your computer to knowing, I need to have an admin account, I need to have a user account, I need to have passwords, I need to have strong passwords. I need to make sure when it prompts me for creating my user accounts and passwords, I don't use something that anybody can find on social media. You want to make sure, if you honestly answer those questions that it asks you, that you don't have that information out there in general use on general population sites like Facebook, YouTube, all those other type of things that somebody can find it. But then there's also Google searches and all this other stuff that people can pull information. If you're interested in more of that security side, you're going to want to see the admin. And from that, you're going to want to move on and do actual studies. Go out and buy some books, read some books. Go on YouTube and actually watch some security videos, like the CompTIA Security Plus, Network Plus, A Plus, Computer Fundamentals, IT Fundamentals. These will get you some of that information that's out there. Knowing I have videos out there, UELs, phishing, all these other subjects that are out there with your email, text messaging, all of these things. Security Plus will cover a lot of that. It's not going to actually go through and break down. It did break down UELs, how they try to mask it and clone it, try to make you go to a false one, typo squatting type of stuff. These are a lot of big terms I don't like to use in videos because you don't know what this is unless you're in the industry. And if you're in the industry, you're probably not really watching these kind of videos. You might be, because there's content on here that if you're in the industry, I can guarantee there's probably not a whole lot of people that really know of it. My end of year video from last year is a huge factor still for me. Still finding it today. Still remedying it. So, now this is your end user again. Having issues with your computer. Your user admin's the same. You're going to need to know how to fix that, remedy it. If it's freezing, lagging, crashing, doing all kinds of weird things, you might have that problem. So let me wrap this one up. Hopefully people have followed it. You might want to watch this video multiple times. And again, don't take it as a personal offense. It's going to be offensive. People are going to get upset. Yes, I know that. Because if somebody told me that, I'd be like, what? What are you talking about? I've been working on computers for 30 years. You can't be telling me. I've been working on computers for 30 years. I mentioned in some of my videos, I've done stuff I know I shouldn't have and went, oh, crap, and had to remedy the problem. As soon as I did it, clicked on a link when I knew I shouldn't have, and then I spent 3 hours, 4 hours cleaning out my system. I knew it as soon as I hit it. Oh, and I can't stop it. What did I do that for? Some of it, they just get you. They work hard with psychology and all these other things. Eye candy and all this color and all this, ooh, click right away and check this out. Or hey, you want more information, click here. And then there's a whole paragraph. They sugarcoat it and lie so much in these emails that they can kind of mislead you, and then you're like, oh, okay, what are they talking? And then, oh, what did I do that for? They get you hooked. And depending on what it could be anything. It could be an email about any subject. Fishing, bowling, NASCAR, football. It could be anything. Could be an email about your favorite team. Oh, did you hear about this player? Blah, 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 blah. Right now, celebrities passing away. All these type of things. You could get an email on this. Hear the latest on the story of a homicide down the street. And you click the link. It has nothing to do with any of these subjects. It's just there to get you to click that link so they can install that malicious software. So this is the user side. And this is really a hard subject and a hard thing because there's a lot of psychology in this. And to know not to do it and know what best practices is and to follow some of those best practices can help. And as the second subject, as the administrator, you can force some of this so that it helps you out. So that you can't do it if you accidentally do it because they hooked you. That's exactly the whole thing. Phishing, hook. To hook you. They got you. Zzz, and they're reeling you in. So, this is why this could kind of be offensive because, and it is going to be offensive because you're going to make mistakes. I'm telling you right now, I've done it. And I've had to remedy the problems from it. So, this is the user side of it. And think about it. I'm the administrator and user. I understand the administrator side. And I've done it. They got me. They hooked me. And I knew it as soon as I did it and tried to stop, close out the window, run my virus scan, run all my malicious tools, run all this stuff for hours, clean it out, even reformat my computer, reload it, re-imaged it, done everything because I made that mistake. So, this is really the factor. Now, pretty much the last factor to it as the user side is if you make the mistake or you make the error or you screw up or whatever you want to call it, or they hooked you, they fished you in, don't ignore it. Don't just, I'll deal with it later. If you're in an organization, a business, somewhere where there's an admin, notify them immediately of it. Get that problem resolved. Turn that computer off if you make that mistake. Turn it off, take it off the network, remove it, pass it to the second stage person. The next video, the admin. Let the admin take care of it. If you're the user and the admin, that's now back on you. So understanding that as a user, and don't really be ashamed or hate yourself or be upset about it. Mistakes are going to happen. Knowing that you made the mistake, remedying that mistake, and acting on that mistake really quickly is huge and beneficiary to you and your organization. So that's the key points I wanted to put out for the actual user. Because again, that's going to be pretty much your weakest link. You can have virus scan, malware protection, firewall, physical firewall, network things. You can be on a domain. You can have policies. You can have procedures. You can have written instructions. You can have job instructions that tell people don't do this, do that, do that. Things are going to happen. Knowing what happened and preventing it from getting worse is always the best remedy, especially if you're a home user. Turning it off, taking it off the network, call someone to remedy that problem. Knowing you have a problem is the first key thing. And that's important for the user. With all those trainings that I have, the PDFs that I've gone through and all this other stuff and slide points and all the trainings that I've done is for this meaning, because a lot of people don't talk about this, and this is where there's that sticking point, because it's going to hurt, it's going to offend, but this is really where you need to be. I'm going to wrap this one up. Hope everybody enjoys it. Hope everybody hits the bell and the subscribe and come back next week for the next video, because that's Step 2 to this. Alrighty, thank you so much.